Indeed, the honourable member for Red Deer Lacombe will have 4 minutes remaining for his remarks when the House next returns to the question that's before it, and also the usual 5 minutes for questions and comments. But now we'll go to statements by members. Déclaration de député, and the honourable member for Calgary Skyview.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we all know, the government has approved the Trans Mountain Pipeline, but we find ourselves in a difficult situation. In an era of economic uncertainty, the pipeline represents both job creation and crucial trade opportunities for Canada. It is expected to not only inject billions of dollars into Canada's economy through project spending and exports, but also generate thousands of jobs. Yes, the pipeline brings concerns of environmental damage, but the merits of this project are clear. The pipeline is the safest, most cost-effective way of transporting oil. My constituents have expressed concerns over the ongoing delays in building the pipeline. Many of them will rely on the jobs that it will create in the province of Alberta. It is clear that there are many passionate people on both sides of this issue. The Trans Mountain Pipeline is greater than one or two individuals. It is about Canada's domestic and international growth. Instead of bickering, fighting, placing blame, we should be truly listening to each other and communicate a strategy that finds us on common ground. Let's be Canadians first and...
The honourable member for Bona Vista, Burin Trinity.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honour and congratulate Chesley W. Patton, who was born and raised in Grand Bank in my riding. He enlisted in the Royal Canadian Air Force during the Second World War and served as a Flight Sergeant Navigator, flying coastal patrol on the east coast of Canada for the duration of the war. After the war, he was enrolled as a student at Dalhousie University and graduated as a chartered accountant. He was hired by Ontario Hydro, where he worked his entire working life. In 1943, while on leave from the military, he joined the Masonic Lodge. Today, Chesley is celebrating 75 years as a Mason. At 97 years old, he's currently the Lodge Chaplain at the Joseph Ahern Lodge in Mississauga. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of all of the residents of Bona Vista Burin Trinity, I would like to thank Chesley Patton for his lifetime of service to our country and his community.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Lévis. Mr. Speaker, who would have thought that one day people would be able to milk maple trees? When the first settlers learned from Indigenous peoples how to boil maple sap, many innovations and cutting-edge techniques have come about. And it is this fascinating story that is told by Régent Bilodeau in his magnificent book. With pioneers like François Goulet, Clément Métivier, and Jean-Marie Chabot, he explains that it was in Bellechasse that maple sugaring techniques were created, including the vacuum technique in 1973. In March 2016, Mr. Bilodeau learned he had bone marrow cancer, but that didn't stop him because his new book is coming out on the 19th. And this is why, because of his determination and tenacity, I am proud to proclaim in this House that Bellechasse is the world's birthplace of maple sugar technology. The Honourable Member for Nickel Belt. May is Speech and Hearing Awareness Month, and as the father of a future speech therapist, I'm proud today to salute the exceptional work of speech therapists and audiologists.
Language Audiology Canada, more than 6,400 members will be highlighting the importance of early detection and intervention for speech, language, swallowing, hearing, and balance disorders. Dès la naissance,
as soon as they are born, newborns learn to communicate and to construct their future, and these actions are essential to any person who wants to develop both socially and professionally.
And suffer from a hearing and speech disorder. Visit your Canadian Hearing Society. I ask all members to join me in recognizing Speech and Hearing Month in Canada and to stand and support the work of speech pathologists and auditors all across Canada. Merci, Miigwech.
The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Mr. Speaker, In Hochelaga, as elsewhere, our seniors are at greater risk of being victims of poverty and isolation. Insufficient public pensions and the lack of automatic enrollment for GIS has done nothing to help them. The growing trend of only offering online services has really complicated their lives. Fortunately, there are groups in my riding who have come forward and are helping people to eliminate the blight of isolation. The Loisirs Notre-Dame des Victoires is an organization that helps the elderly with leisure activities in order to vanquish isolation and remain active citizens. This organization was founded in 1953, so will be 65 years old. I would urge all my colleagues to join with me in thanking them and wishing them an excellent 65th anniversary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. White Rock citizen Christine Girard is the first Canadian woman ever to win an Olympic medal in weightlifting. In London in 2012, she initially won the bronze medal and has recently been awarded the gold medal as the two athletes who finished before her were disqualified for doping. Christine is a proud mother of 3 children, and she is married to her coach, Walter Bailey. She is a wonderful role model who has supported young athletes through her coaching, through her support of kids sport, and she has chronicled her experiences through a recent book entitled From Defeat to Victory. She is a humble, proud Canadian, and she has described her gold medal as a victory for her sport and for our country, believing that it reflects the Canadian values of fair play and competitiveness. On behalf of all Canadians, thank you, Christine, for your inspiration, both as an athlete and as a citizen.
Honourable Member for Markham Unionville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to rise today to recognize the month of May as an Asian Heritage Month. It is a time to celebrate and reflect on the contributions that Canadians of Asian heritage have made to Canada. I proudly represent the riding of Markham Unionville, which is home to large and thriving Asian community. Canadians of Asian heritage in Markham and across Canada are active members of our communities and contribute to our national life. Canadians from all backgrounds stand together to honor the legacy of Canadians of Asian heritage who, throughout our history, have taken a major role in molding Canada into the culturally diverse, energetic, and prosperous nation we know today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
As a Member of Parliament, I've had the distinct honour to engage with business owners in my riding, who not only provide vital jobs for local people, but truly put Mississauga on the map as a hub for innovation and creativity. Mr. Speaker, Maclean's published a list of the best managed companies for 2018 in Canada, and recently I had the pleasure of visiting 2 of them. Lakeside Process Controls Limited has been providing innovative automation solutions since 1952. M&M Meats, headquartered in my riding, continues to be a market leader and recognizable brand in Canada. To demonstrate this, M&M Food Market was named Maclean's Platinum winner. I ask my colleagues to join me in congratulating Lakeside and M&M in being a credit to the Canadian business community and showing leadership as employers. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday at Finance Committee, we heard from experts across the country about pricing pollution. We heard that it's a cost-effective solution to climate change that cuts pollution and spurs clean economic growth. We heard that it's the foundation of any serious climate plan for Canada. Unfortunately, we also heard from Jason Kenney. The members opposite flew in a Harper Conservative to talk about what he is not doing to tackle climate change. And he's not even sure how much of a role humans play in causing it. He has no plan for climate action. And as one of our experts said yesterday, with that track record, it's hard to say we share a common concern for this problem. Mr. Speaker, our party has a real plan to cut pollution, grow the economy, and support Canadians. Serious climate action is the right choice for our kids and grandkids, and it shouldn't be a partisan issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the tremendous work of one of my constituents, Kristen Legault Donkers. Kristen is in her third year of university and is pursuing a career in clinical psychology. When she was 13, she was diagnosed with anxiety and depression and was later diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Undeterred by her illness, Kristen used it in the opportunity to advocate for better mental health services. And in 2016, she wrote and published a series of children's books on depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, and ADHD. She then teamed up with a local teacher and created a comprehensive education package for use in classrooms. For her work, Kristen is being honored by the Canadian Alliance on Mental Health, or Illness and Mental Health during their annual Champions of Mental Health Awards on May 8th. There she'll be presented with the Sharon Johnson Champion of Mental Health Award for Youth. It is essential that we recognize and support mental health champions like Kristen. The work she has done has been tremendous support for 1 in 5 Canadians who suffer from a mental disorder. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Brome-Missisquoi. Mr. Speaker, André Bourbeau, a great music lover and philanthropist, left us March 25th last at 81 years of age. He loved music and he was able to share his passion through Canada Music Youth, which he presided for 18 years. He was also very involved politically. He was a municipal councillor and mayor of Saint-Lambert, and also president and commissioner for the Transport Commission of Montreal South Shore. He sat in the National Assembly, was Minister of Municipal Affairs, Revenue Security, and Finance in Robert Bourassa's government. He received many honors, including the Chevalier de l'Ordre National du Québec, and also the Businessperson Artsperson Award in 2015. Through his generosity, André greatly contributed to the development of the world of music and helped others to take up the baton. I am deeply saddened by this great loss, and I offer my condolences to his family and loved ones.
L'honorable député d'Ottawa-Vanier.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa-Vanier. Mr. Speaker, Status of Women Canada is now accepting nominations for the Governor-General's Prize, commemorating the Persons Case. This prize pays tribute to Canadians who have fought for their identity and shown an unfailing commitment to gender equality in Canada.
The Me Too and Time's Up movements have forced us to confront just how much work still remains to be done. It is especially important to recognize and honor the legacy of feminist leaders on which we continue to build. Mr. Speaker, we all know of trailblazers, advocates, or community organizers who have made outstanding contributions to gender equality in Canada and could be nominated for 2018 awards. Let's spread the word about the Governor-General's Awards in commemoration of the Persons Case, so the achievements of exceptional individuals who are advancing gender equality may inspire others to make a difference too. Thank you, Mr.
The Honourable Member for Banff Airdrie.
A month ago, our entire country grieved when tragedy struck the Humboldt Broncos. And among the injured was 19-year-old Ryan Strasnitsky from Airdrie. Ryan was left paralyzed and faces a long recovery, but his determination never wavered. After the accident, Ryan stated that he had a commitment to play for Canada on the Olympic sledge hockey team. Through the darkness, there was always light, and this light came from our community rallying around Ryan. Cody Thompson, friend and trainer of Ryan's, supported by the Airdrie Dads Facebook group, helped start the Straz Strong Committee and sold hats to help with medical costs. The kids of Airdrie, Random Acts of City Kindness, hosted a bake sale led by brothers Aidan and Nolan Pohl. And Phil Dell, dad of local NHL goalie Aaron Dell, and many others, offered their time as tradesmen to help refit Ryan's home. Mackenzie Murphy set up a vigil to help support Ryan and to commemorate the Broncos. Mr. Speaker, these are just a few examples of how our community was able to shine some light onto a tragedy. Ryan, our entire country is behind you.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Kitchener South Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, 2 years ago I rose in the House for the very first time to recognize 30 years of significant contributions of Toyota to my constituents. So I took great pleasure this past Friday when the Prime Minister, Premier Wynne, and Fred Wolf, President of Toyota Manufacturing Canada, at the Cambridge-Hesper plant in my riding to announce that Toyota will be making a $1.4 billion investment and that the Government of Canada and Ontario each would be investing $110 million. These investments will support more than 8,000 jobs in southwestern Ontario and create 450 new jobs as well as 1,000 co-op placements. They will help maintain and create well-paying jobs for the middle class and promote economic growth and prosperity for Waterloo Region and for our strong automotive sector right here in Canada. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Churchill-Kiewit-Nookaski.
Today I rise to celebrate the lives of Keithan Lobster, Matthew Moore Spence, and Terrence Spence. These beautiful, bright 13 and 11-year-old boys from Nissichawasi Cree Nation died on April 28th. And like so many kids, they were cycling, enjoying the first warm days, and when they were struck by a drunk driver. Unlike so many other kids, they faced challenges all too common on First Nations, not just the gravel road with no lighting. Keithan's mom committed suicide a year ago. His granny raised him since then in a trailer that was home to 18 people. Wow. Keithan had a dream. His last words to his Uncle Curtis Lobster were, "I am going to graduate from college like you, Uncle." In Canada, one of the wealthiest countries in the world, in 2018, we have to ask ourselves why. We need to work with First Nations to build communities that kids can be safe in, from bike paths to roads to lights. Keithan, Matthew, Terrence, we will not forget you, and we will work to build safer communities for kids like you. Egose.
Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, the integrity of our elections is something that most Canadians take for granted. But as Wendell Phillips said in 1852, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. So vigilance and a commitment to the integrity of our elections requires us to confront the Liberals' disastrous proposals in Bill C-76, proposals that will bring the integrity of our electoral process into question and will weaken our democracy. To have confidence in the results of an election, Canadians expect three simple things: that voters prove who they are, that voters prove where they live, and that our elections are free from foreign interference. Bill C-76 weakens all three of these. It eliminates ID requirements which were already among the most generous in the world. It allows Canadians living abroad to choose which riding to vote in, whether or not they demonstrate any plausible connection to that riding. It introduces no meaningful safeguards on foreign interference at a time when more and more foreign actors want to manipulate our politics. This bill is a clear and present threat to the integrity of Canadian elections. We will fight it every step of the way.
The Honourable Member for Brampton West.
Mr. Speaker, as a registered nurse, it is my privilege to recognize National Nursing Week, a celebration of tireless dedication of our nation's nurses. This weekend, I visited Brampton Civic Hospital. I saw the commitment, compassion, and care our nurses exhibit every single day. This year, the theme of National Nursing Week is Yes, this is my nursing, highlighting the dynamic role nurses play in our evolving healthcare system. Beyond the front life of healthcare, nurses are leaders, educators, advocates, and innovators. Nurse Next Door in Brampton West is an innovative healthcare service redefining what healthcare looks like through our home care model. Our government is proud to support Nurse Next Door through our investments in home care and palliative care, helping more Canadians continue to live in their homes into their golden years. So to all the nurses across Canada and around the world, thank you for all your contributions in keeping us healthy and safe. Merci beaucoup.
Questions orales. Oral questions. The Honourable Member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, the New Brunswick Telegraph-Journal reported that a majority of Atlantic Canadians have not received a wage increase in the last few years. It's reported that families have significantly less money to spend, and households are actually worse off now than they were during the Great Recession. Damaging policies like the carbon tax only make things worse by increasing the price of really everything that Canadians pay for. Will this government show some compassion for Atlantic Canadians and vote with us today say no to the carbon tax.
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering if the party opposite would show compassion for all Canadians and for the world by taking serious action on climate change. The costs of climate change and the impacts that we're seeing on Canadians from floods, from forest fires, from droughts have gone from $400 million a year to over $1 billion a year. We're projected to hit maybe $40 billion a year by 2030. There's a huge impact of climate change, and Canadians are feeling it right now. I just wonder if the party opposite would actually tell us if they have a plan and show it to Canadians.
Honourable Member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister speaks of costs, and costs are really on our mind as well. And specifically because the Prime Minister has indicated that high fuel costs are going to make Canadians make better choices. And this is why I want to know. You know, Mr. Speaker, I don't have a choice when I'm taking my kids to basketball and football. I don't have a choice to walk when I'm taking my husband to his specialist appointment 70 kilometers away. Mr. Speaker, choices can't be made that easily. Do they understand the impact these costs have on Canadians?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, as I look up in the gallery and I see young people here, I think that the question they're asking is, does the party opposite understand that climate change is real? It's having a real impact. And young people and older people and people around the world want to see clear action on climate change because we only have one planet. So on behalf of everyone that wants to see action on climate change, I'd like to ask the party opposite, what is your plan?
Order. I remind the Honourable Minister of Environment to direct her comments to the Chair. If we say you here, we're talking about the Speaker. I don't think she's asking me a question. The Honourable Member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, I greatly respect the fact that we have wonderful students watching today, but I bet they want to know the other thing too, which is how much is it going to cost them? That's what they want to know. Mr. Speaker, this is more than just a matter of choice, and as the Prime Minister almost said in his remarks, it's a behavior that they want to correct. But, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister can't dictate how Canadians behave, but he's going to try to make sure he suffocates them with taxes before they comply. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister support our motion and commit in the House today to no new taxes for these young people?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know what? The young people and Canadians already know that they're paying for the costs of inaction by the previous government.
That's right.
They're paying the cost because we're seeing the impacts of climate change. We're seeing forest fires, we're seeing droughts, we're seeing floods, and also we know there's a huge economic opportunity, a $23 trillion opportunity of clean growth. And I'm really proud of what our party has been able to do in terms of growing the fastest growing economy in the G7, 400,000 jobs created. We're going to continue taking action to tackle climate change, grow our economy.
Order. It's important we have debates on things, not that we all talk at once, so I'd ask members to listen when others are speaking, whether they're asking a question or giving an answer, whether they like what they're hearing or not.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-North-Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, after having cancelled tax credits for children's sports and cultural activities, and cancelling tax credits for people using public transit, after having hiked 80% of taxes on families in Canada, the Prime Minister's new approach is to go looking for more money from taxpayers by putting in place a new carbon tax that will take $10 billion out of our economy. My question for the Prime Minister is simple. Will he make an informed decision and simply cancel the carbon tax? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that climate change is real and that we must take action on climate change. We need to grow a clean economy as well. On behalf of all Canadians, I would ask, what is the party opposite's plan? A member for Richmond-North-Athabasca. No one but a Liberal would see the positive out of a tax. The facts are clear. The Liberals can't explain how this new tax will help the environment. They don't even want to tell Canadians how much the tax is going to cost them. And at the same time, the Parliamentary Budget Officer, who's neutral, says that this tax will take $10 billion out of the economy. So my question is very simple. What is the Prime Minister waiting for to eliminate this regressive tax? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, the facts are clear. There is already a cost associated with climate change in Canada. There are forest fires, floods. We're seeing this across the country. It's our duty to preserve the planet for our children and grandchildren, and I ask what the Conservative Party's plan is to deal with this. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata-les-Basques. Mr. Speaker, for 18 months, the position at the head of Elections Canada has been vacant. On April 3rd, we're informed of an appointment of someone to the position. April 27th, out of nowhere, we get a new letter informing us that the first appointment has been cancelled and that there's a new appointment in 3 weeks. No consultation, no explanations. The government's changed its idea on the candidate and has only left us with 7 days to analyze all of this, and a mere 18 months before a general election. Are we doomed to going through the next election without the Honourable President of the Treasury Board?
In the midst of a rigorous recruitment process to choose the next Chief Electoral Officer, it's very important to recognize that as we move forward, and I expect that we will be moving forward very, very soon, that we respect the privacy of Canadians who participate in these selection processes. I certainly wish the NDP would respect that same principle of respecting the privacy of people who participate in these selection processes.
The Honourable Member.
The ones who are talking about an open and transparent process. The government is taking the stewardship of our democracy as seriously as they did with electoral reform. The lack of urgency of their part is alarming. After inexplicably waiting for 18 months to appoint a chief electoral officer, the government sent 2 letters in the space of 3 weeks with 2 different candidates. With only 18 months left until the next election, time is running out, and Canadians expect free and fair elections. They deserve answers. What's happening, and when will the Elections Canada CEO be on the job?
Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, I would urge the honourable member to wait, because we will be coming forward very soon with a candidate, a successful candidate, in the rigorous selection process for the next Chief Electoral Officer. Again, Mr. Speaker, this has been a very important process to choose the Chief Electoral Officer who will help us preserve the integrity of our electoral system and at the same time encourage more Canadians to vote. It is important that we respect the privacy of all Canadians who participate in these processes. I wish the NDP would demonstrate that same level of respect.
The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, the government has finally released its report on the use of Canadian weapons in Saudi Arabia. It says there's no proof that weapons were used to violate human rights. The UN and human rights advocacy groups have said that recourse to force was neither proportionate nor necessary. But the government chose to rely on diplomatic and military sources from Saudi Arabia. Does the government seriously expect Canadians to accept this report?
National.
The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for her question. Our government has recently announced a more rigorous system for the export of weapons. We have a treaty that is in legislation, including considerations relating to human rights, peace and security, as well as gender-based violence. This means, Mr. Speaker, that there is a new legal obligation for this government and for all future governments of Canada. The Honourable Member. That bill has a bunch of holes in it, Mr. Speaker. It doesn't honour the spirit or the letter of the treaty.
Canadian arms export is not conclusive evidence of use of arms in human rights violations. It is reasonable risk. And clearly, with Saudi Arabia, there is a reasonable risk that Canadian arms have been and will be used to commit human rights violations in Saudi Arabia or in Yemen. This is an embarrassment. This government's approach to arms export control is shameful. When will this government do the right thing and suspend arms export to Saudi Arabia?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like again to thank my colleague for a question. As you know, Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to ensuring that Canada export controls system is robust and transparent. We are proud to have put forward Bill C-47, which would allow Canada to accede to the Arms Trade Treaty. I would like to thank all my colleagues in this House for the constructive work that has been done in committee. We have made significant steps toward creating a new and higher standard for arms export. This is in line with what Canadians expect. This is what we're doing.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the federal court ordered the government to re-examine an asylum claim for someone who until recently had been living in the United States for 13 years. For 13 years in the U.S., that person never sought asylum. But now this person is shopping for a place in Canada. So, Mr. Speaker, this person is undoubtedly mocking us. Does the government think that the U.S. isn't a safe place for asylum seekers? Or will it do the right thing and appeal this decision? Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, as a Canadian, I am very proud of our policy for refugees, for the policy that exists in this country. We can all be proud of the policy that welcomes people from persecution. We have rules in place, and the rules must be respected. We will ensure that the rules are respected to ensure the integrity of our system, the safety of Canadians, and our respect for national and international law. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Well, Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Minister informed us that he had nothing new to propose to deal with the illegal migrants. The Minister wants to use a compassionate approach, but the problem is that his humanism doesn't extend to real refugees in UN camps. The Minister's hypocrisy is clear to real refugees who are never mentioned in his speeches. Once again, will the government show leadership and put the issue of illegal asylum seekers on the agenda at the G7? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, it's extraordinary to hear these Harper conservatives who didn't even want us to bring Syrians to the country. We have a different policy. We will ensure that we show compassion to refugees who have a legitimate right to flee persecution, but at the same time we will enforce the rules in Canada. Someone who comes to Canada is not automatically authorized to stay here unless they satisfy certain criteria with respect to refugee status.
Mr. Speaker, every day the wait gets longer for those fleeing war and genuine persecution, as this government uses its resources for those who jump the queue. The Liberals have reassigned 80 agents from processing legitimate immigration applications that have long wait times. These agents are now dealing with queue jumpers instead of real applicants. Mr. Speaker, how is that fair and compassionate?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Speaker, only the Harper Conservatives would talk about border security when they cut almost $400 million from border security operations. Only the Harper Conservatives would pretend to care about compassion for refugees when they cut refugee health care to the most vulnerable people, pregnant women, victims of torture. Only the Harper Conservatives would pretend to care about immigration processing and people stuck in backlogs, when we are the ones who inherited those backlogs from them and are working hard to clear those backlogs and improve processing times, Mr. Speaker. We have no lessons to take from the Conservatives on this issue.
Member for Edmonton Manning.
Well, Mr. Speaker, another day has gone by, but refugees who are waiting in camps all over the world to come to Canada are no closer to arriving than yesterday or the day before. The Minister of Immigration, who preaches compassion but is making the world's most vulnerable people wait while prioritizing people crossing illegally from U.S. Why doesn't the minister stop it with the Piambo talking points and tell us how is this fair?
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what made it difficult for refugees, Mr. Speaker, is when you cut health care for refugees. What made it difficult for refugees is when you limit the generosity of Canadians to only $4,500 spots in the privately sponsored refugee program. We have more than quadrupled those spots to 18,000 so that more Canadians can sponsor refugees. We are making sure that we've doubled the number of resettled refugees that come to Canada. We've invested more money in the Immigration Refugee Board so that genuine refugees can get their claims heard faster. The Conservatives have no clue about compassion for refugees.
Honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
The Prime Minister has moved over 80 full-time employees from processing applications who are trying to legally immigrate to Canada to process work permits for people entering Canada illegally from the United States. Yet we know that LGBTQI plus refugees waiting in UN camps wait for years to come to Canada under this government. How is it compassionate to send resources to prioritize the applications of illegal border crossers from the United States of America while persecuted LGBTI refugees have to wait?
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, promoting the rights and dignity of LGBTQ2 people at home and abroad has been a priority for this government. What was their record under that party, Mr. Speaker? They were forced by the opposition to put back LGBTQ2 rights in the Citizenship Guide after they removed those rights and a mention of those rights under the Citizenship Act. We have quadrupled the number of privately sponsored refugees so that we can identify the most vulnerable refugees in the world, including LGBTQ2 communities. We have funded the Rainbow Refugee Society so that more LGBTQ2 refugees can be brought to Canada, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Government that was the first to include LGBTQI rights in Canada's Citizenship Guide. Mr. Speaker, there is one line of immigration that this government has managed to reduce to 0 days for wait time, and that's for people who are illegally crossing the border from the safe country that is the United States. Meanwhile, it takes 30 months for someone to immigrate on humanitarian and compassionate grounds legally in Canada. Why has the minister redirected 80 staff from processing the applications of legal border crossers to those illegally entering the country from the United States?
Mr. Speaker, let's compare our records. Under that party, spouses had to wait 26 months to reunite with their family members. We've brought that down to 12 months. And not only that, we were able to remove 20,000 spouses from the backlog that they left us, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, live-in caregivers who provided services to Canadian families. Under that party, under the Harper Conservatives, they had to wait 5 to 7 years to sponsor their family members. We've cut that down to 12 months, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Harper Conservatives.
L'honorable député. L'honorable député de Saint-Hyacinthe.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. Mr. Speaker, it was an honour for me today to be alongside Marie-Hélène Dubé and the Canadian Union of Public Employees, which, along with the 500,000 Canadians, are calling for improved EI sick benefits. The Prime Minister promised it, the Minister promised it, and sick people are still waiting. They don't need financial problems. They need to focus their energy on getting better. What is the government waiting for to keep its promise? The Honourable Minister for Social Development. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for her question. I met with Ms. Dubé this morning. I had the pleasure of discussing with her the importance of the EI system to take into account difficult circumstances for families facing many difficulties. We agreed together that the EI system has been improved over the past 2 years. There are new benefits for caregivers that will help families. There are sick benefits that will help many people who are facing difficult circumstances. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to work
Churchill, Huat, Nokaski.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians fighting for their lives can no longer wait. We have asked the same question over and over, and we're seeing the same Liberal game. When they were in opposition, they cared about this, but now that they're in government, they forgot what they promised. Yeah. Enough is enough. We need action. And why have they forgotten Marie-Hélène Dubé and the 500,000 Canadians who want to see EI sickness benefits extended? When will we finally see the Liberals stand up for Canadian workers, for those struggling with serious illness? And when will we see them fulfill their promise of extending EI sick benefits?
Honourable Minister of Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank the Member of Parliament for her question. As we all know in this House, the EI system has a very important responsibility in addressing the needs, the circumstances of families who are struggling with unemployment and with health care and family circumstances. We are very conscious of the severe potential and already positive impacts of the changes we've made to the EI system over the last 2 years. We've introduced a new parental sharing benefit, for instance, which is going to benefit 100,000 families. We have enhanced the flexibility of the sickness benefit. We look forward to more of these changes, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, all Canadians know that the Liberal carbon tax will have a direct impact on their pocketbooks. Mr. Speaker, the government knows it. The government has calculated the amount, but the government is hiding this information from Canadians, and that's not being very courageous. So my question is very simple. What is the direct impact will this have on Canadians who work hard? How much will it cost? What will this Liberal carbon tax cost Canadian families? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know that the member opposite should know how it works, putting a price on pollution because he lives in Quebec and because Quebec is one of the economies in our country that is growing in Canada. We have an opportunity to attack climate change and to create good jobs. As I would point out, I have seen many companies in Quebec with good solutions in the province. We are going to continue with our plan to...
Louis Saint Laurent.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, for Canadians in real life, there will be a cost associated with the tax. For a mother, for example, who needs to drive her children to daycare, to the grocery store, to work, who doesn't have access to public transit. Well, how much will this Liberal carbon tax cost that family? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you how much we've done for that mother. We have invested in public transport. We have provided the child tax benefit. We've done more for that mother, for example, than the party opposite in many years. That mother will also see what we're doing to save the planet for her children. We have a plan. This is what we're doing. And so I wonder, and I'll ask on her behalf, what is the plan that the party opposite has?
Minister.
I'd like to remind the Honourable Minister to direct her comments directly through the Chair.
The government likes to claim that its carbon tax will be, quote, revenue neutral.
Yeah, right.
Now, we already knew that they were going to collect GST on the carbon tax. But today, Environment Canada officials testified at Finance Committee that the government will not return the proceeds of GST collected on the carbon tax to the provinces from which it was originally collected.
Interesting.
Isn't that yet more proof that this tax has nothing to do with the environment, that it's just another tax grab on Canadians?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I always find it strange that the member opposite doesn't understand how a price on pollution works. He was at a committee yesterday where every single expert said that a price on pollution is the most efficient way to reduce emissions while growing a clean economy. Maybe the member opposite would like to go through the records from the committee. I'm happy to produce it for him so he can see what people say about how a price on pollution works, that we need to tackle climate change, and this is one of the most effective tools we have to grow a clean economy, to foster innovation, and to ensure a future.
The honourable member for Carleton.
But it was this government that claimed that the tax would be revenue neutral. And today, further testimony from Environment Canada disproved that claim. Officials said that the budget bill will not even allow the government to reduce other taxes with the proceeds of the carbon tax. In other words, this is going to make the government a winner and taxpayers the losers. Right. How much will this tax increase cost the average Canadian family?
Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, climate change is real. Mr. Speaker, we need a plan to tackle climate change. We have a plan to tackle climate change. We have a plan to grow our economy. We understand the $23 trillion opportunity of clean growth.
Order. I would ask the honourable member for Calgary, for Edmonton, Manning, and others to listen and not to interrupt when someone is answering. And I'd ask the member for Cape Breton Council to assist by also listening and not by interrupting when I'm trying to get things quiet around here. The Honourable Minister, the Honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, we are going to continue to implement a plan on climate change that's going to reduce emissions, that's going to grow a clean economy, that's going to ensure a planet, a sustainable planet for our kids. Once again, I'm going to ask the party opposite, what is your plan to tackle climate change to take advantage of the 20...
I think this is the third time I've had to remind the Honourable Minister of Environment about saying you and your. When you say your plan, you're asking the Speaker, and that's not my role. So I'd ask her not to do that. Members, now everybody wants to know what my plan is. It's not fair, I tell you. Ilona, talk to me later. Talk to me later. Well, I've got to see the House in a good mood anyway.
The Honourable Member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, La Presse just announced it's going to become a non-profit because Ottawa is still refusing to support national media. This morning, the newspaper's management said it can no longer fight Facebook and Google, who draw in nearly 80% of all digital advertising revenue in Canada. No taxes, but with tax credits collected. Why does the Minister of Finance favor web giants? La Presse, hey, what's next? Does our local media have to start hiring hordes of lobbyists to get the government's respect? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, Canadians get their news more and more from the internet. And companies innovate to adapt to this new reality. In Budget 2018, we announced that the government was going to study new models to allow media to receive funding. We believe in the importance of La Presse as a local, reliable, professional source of news in Quebec, and we will continue to work with La Presse and other media organizations to ensure that we do a follow-up on our budget announcements.
Mr. Speaker, around the globe, U.S. data oligarchies are facing calls for regulation, but with the Liberal government, it's a case of who you know in the PMO. I mean, Liberal operative Kevin Chan didn't even bother to register as a lobbyist because he could just call up his friends, the ministers. And Google did one step better, moving Leslie Church from the Liberal Party to Google Public Affairs to the senior position in the Minister of Heritage's office. I mean, talk about letting Dracula have the keys to the blood bank. So to the Minister of Heritage, why is she putting the interests of Liberal insiders ahead of the interests of Canadian citizens?
The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage.
We all know that the ways Canadians consume content has changed, and this is a reality that is impacting many sectors. The reality is that benefits associated with the shift towards digital are not shared equally between web giants and our artists, creators, and journalists. Our government wants to ensure that there is a better balance. This is why we have committed modernizing our policy to better address the realities of the digital era, including the review of the Broadcasting Act. We believe in the importance of protecting Canadian culture, our industries and artists, and promoting access to content on all platforms.
The honourable member for Scarborough-Guildwood.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's national parks play a critical role in shaping our national identity, protecting wildlife, and preserving national heritage. Last year, a record number of Canadians visited parks and heritage places across the country, including the Rouge National Urban Park in Scarborough. In 2017, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change held the most comprehensive consultation ever undertaken. Could the Minister tell us what she heard and what's her vision for Canada's parks?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the member for Scarborough-Guildwood for his important work on Rouge National Urban Park. For the first time ever, we welcome the views of all Canadians. Over 13,000 Canadians shared their perspectives, and yesterday I was able to share the practical steps that we are taking in response to this feedback. Top priority is protecting ecological integrity of our parks and making sure that more Canadians have access to our parks, because we know when Canadians connect with nature, they understand the importance of connecting with it. I'm extremely proud that starting in 2018, national parks are free to...
The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, after seeing Liberal buddies get pot permits to grow a small fortune, now Liberal fishers get preferential treatment, making a real mockery of ethics. If the court documents confirm the interference of the Minister of Fisheries in issuing a valuable seafood quota, once again the Liberals will have cheated in an allocation process, this time to the detriment of First Nations. Why did the Minister grant millions of dollars in quotas to his Liberal friends to the detriment of a fair process, and in a move that undermines the reconciliation they wish to achieve? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Fisheries.
New participant in the surf clam fishery should be no surprise to the Conservative government. In fact, they started a very similar process 3 years ago to accomplish the very same thing. The difference is, unlike the previous government, our robust process included Indigenous communities. Now, we are proud that the best proposal was selected. The greatest number of Atlantic Canadians will benefit, including Indigenous people from 4 Atlantic provinces, and Quebec.
The honourable member for North Okanagan-Shuswap.
Mr. Speaker, the Fisheries Minister has defended his decision to reward Liberal Party insiders with a quota worth millions of dollars, claiming his patronage was a step in reconciliation. The bidding process was a sham and an insult to reconciliation. It is pitting one First Nation against the other and the Crown. Why is the minister putting Liberal insiders ahead of the families in Grand Bank and ahead of reconciliation with Indigenous people?
Wow. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, our decision to increase Indigenous participation in fishing is consistent with our government's commitment to developing a renewed relationship between Canada and Indigenous people. Enhancing access to the Arctic surf clam fishery broadens the distribution of benefits from this public resource and is a powerful step towards reconciliation. When the previous government went through a very similar public proposal process to access this fishery, they forgot to include Indigenous people. We, however, Mr. Speaker, did not.
Honourable member for Caribou Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, the minister was aware of the glaring weaknesses in the Five Nations proposal, yet he ordered his officials to give them the license anyways. Despite the departmental analysis pointing out the flaws in their application, he still awarded it to Liberal family and friends at the expense of the community of Grand Bank. Just so we're all clear, the minister awarded a contract worth millions of dollars to a Liberal MP's brother and a former Liberal MP whose bid was incomplete and flawed. If this isn't a conflict of interest, what is?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, just so we're clear, the fact that there's a new participant coming into this fishery is not a surprise, or should not be a surprise, to the former government. They had a very similar process, but excluded First Nations people as part of that process. Now, we had a robust process, and we are proud of the fact that we picked the best proposal. It's going to benefit the highest number of Atlantic Canadians, including Indigenous people from 5 separate provinces, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, if robust means checking down to see if they've given to the Liberal Party while they've accomplished that robust application. Mr. Speaker, I spent last week in Grand Bank, from the dock to Sharon's, the Foodland to Jenny's. The concern over their future is very real. I spoke again once with Edgar, who works at the plant, and his son also works at the plant and is at risk of being amongst the very first to lose his job. If this happened, Edgar's worried that he may lose his son to the mainland. Edgar has one question for the 7 MPs from the Rock. When will they start standing up for them?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I am always happy to stand up and talk about just how proud I am of the good work of every single member of Parliament from Newfoundland and Labrador, especially the member for Buena Vista, Burren Trinity, who has been in constant contact with the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans. And in addition to that, Mr. Speaker, we're also proud of the robust process that we carried out that ensured that the maximum number of Atlantic Canadians are going to benefit from this decision, including Indigenous people, a group of people, Mr. Speaker, that government forgot about when they were going through a similar process.
The Honourable Member for Kootenay, Columbia.
Mr. Speaker, the Phoenix pay system has been a disaster right from the beginning. At Parks Canada, the problems have been rampant, and many people have not been paid properly for months or even years. My riding is the proud home to 4 national parks, Kootenay, Yoho, Revelstoke, and Glacier, and my offices have dealt with a large number of Phoenix cases from parks employees. There have been so many problems that many struggle to even keep track of the status of their own case. These good people deserve better. When will the government scrap the Phoenix pay system and compensate those affected by this fiasco?
Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for the question. Mr. Speaker, this remains and will remain my top priority until the Phoenix pay system is stabilized. In parallel, Mr. Speaker, we are looking at, the President of the Secretary Board is looking at a new system for the future, but we have to pay 300,000 people, Mr. Speaker, every 2 weeks, and we will do just that. Last Friday, I was in Miramichi, and I met the people, and I talked to the people who are going to solve this for us. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, last year, many citizens in Yamachiche were hit by devastating waves, and this caused significant property damage. Since then, the Liberal government is hiding the full report from the public, and they still have not provided an estimate of the damages. Those affected still haven't received any financial compensation and have been left to deal with it on their own without the help of the government. I have 2 simple questions. Will the Minister of Transportation publish the full report? And will he compensate the victims of Yamachiche, yes or no? The Minister of Transportation. Mr. Speaker, we've certainly taken note of what happened last spring during flooding in Yamachiche because of a ship that was going too fast. The pilot was found guilty of speeding while going through Yamachiche and was punished. When it comes to compensation, many other houses were flooded along those ones because of torrential rain, and compensation will be granted by the province at the same time. The Honourable Member for Beauport, Côte-de-Beaupré, Île-d'Orléans, Charlevoix. The Canada Elections Act has always worked well, but with just 18 months to go before the next election, the Liberals are looking for trouble and getting ready to sow a great deal of confusion among voters. All throughout our country, in order to be able to vote, Canadian men and women have to show up with at least one piece of official ID, and that applies to everyone without any exceptions. Why do the Liberals want to weaken the integrity of our electoral system? The President of the Treasury Board. Mr. Speaker, the main challenge for our democracy is not electoral fraud, but electoral participation. We're going to restore the use of voter ID cards, and we're also giving Elections Canada the mandate to encourage participation.
It was a Conservative MP who had to rise to apologize for falsifying stories about electoral fraud. I would urge the Conservatives to move on and recognize what we should be doing is encouraging people.
Honourable member for Banff-Airdrie.
Mr. Speaker, there are 39 accepted forms of ID to vote in a federal election. A label on a prescription bottle, a personal check, a utility bill, a library card, and those are all acceptable, and the list goes on and on. It's hard to conceive of a scenario where a voter would have none of these but have a correct voter information card. But the Liberals want to have almost 1 million incorrect cards used as proof. So why are the Liberals making it possible for people to vote without the correct ID?
Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, one of the recommendations of Elections Canada was to restore the voter information cards and vouching to the process. That's one of the reasons why we're doing it. Stats Canada tells us that in the last election, 170,000 Canadians did not have the opportunity to vote because of the Conservatives' decision to end vouching and to get rid of the voter information cards. Mr. Speaker, we want more Canadians to vote because we believe that voter participation strengthens our democratic system.
Honourable member for Banff-Airdrie.
Well, that stat that Mr. just used is completely incorrect. Right. Last election, having photo ID was a requirement, and the voter turnout was the highest it had been in 2 decades. So clearly proving who you are didn't make it harder to vote. So why do the Liberals think it should be necessary for voters to not to have to prove who they are and where they live in order to vote?
Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not surprised to hear the Conservatives attacking Stats Canada. They were the ones who gutted Stats Canada, got rid of the long-form census. But the reality is, Mr. Speaker, there are reasons why a lot of Canadians did want to vote in the last election. They were very motivated to get rid of the Harper Conservatives. Nothing to do with Stats Canada, Mr. Speaker. That's because Canadians are wise people. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Marc-Aurèle-Fortin. Mr. Speaker, the New Horizons for Seniors program is one of the greatest policy successes in Canada. Since its creation in 2004 by a previous Liberal government, the New Horizons program has supported over 21,000 projects all over the country and enriches the lives of 250,000 seniors every year. Can the minister responsible for seniors tell the House when communities can submit a request for funding for New Horizons projects for 2018? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to congratulate and thank my colleague for Marc-Aurèle-Fortin for his excellent work for seniors. The New Horizons for Seniors program will help seniors to help seniors and participate in their communities. The calls for proposals for the new project was launched yesterday. I invite every member in this House to share this great news and encourage their local organizations to try and participate in the project.
Mr. Speaker, a Global News reporter said he was threatened with violence and told not to film while visiting a protest camp against Trans Mountain on public property. The Prime Minister claims he will legislate to ensure the pipeline gets built. Kinder Morgan still faces roadblocks, it's getting worse, and time is running out. The Liberals have had over a year, but there are only 12 days left to introduce and pass a law, a process that usually takes months. So a really easy question. Where is the legislation on the Trans Mountain expansion?
The Minister of Natural Resources.
Speaker, we agree with the honourable member, and we have for some time, that we want the Trans Mountain expansion pipeline to be built because of the jobs that it will create, because of the expansion of our export markets, because we believe that the combination of unprecedented investments in an ocean protection plan, while we look at ways in which the world can benefit from the terrific resources in Alberta and across our country, and also because of the co-development with Indigenous peoples along the line, these are the three pillars for successful energy policy, and we're very glad that the member agrees with us.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Astoundingly, at Public Safety Committee yesterday, a Liberal member asked the incoming and first female RCMP commissioner, and I quote, How will a lady tell the guys how to behave? Such language, directed at the commissioner tasked with tackling harassment, sexual harassment and bullying in the RCMP, is unquestionably sexist and undermining of her leadership. Does the public safety minister feel the question is appropriate? And if not, what is he going to do about it?
Minister. Mr. Speaker, I am very proud of Brenda Lucki as the 24th Commissioner of the RCMP. She has 32 years of distinguished service in the force all across Canada and indeed around the world. She will be an exceptional leader for the RCMP. She is the best person for the job, and she just happens to be a woman. The honourable member for Pickering-Uxbridge.
Speaker, members of the Standing Committee on Finance have been working with the Minister of Finance and urging him to work with his provincial and territorial counterparts to ensure that persons with disabilities and women who take time out of the workforce to raise children are able to receive the full benefits of our government's transformational Canada Pension Plan enhancement. Can the Parliamentary Secretary update this House on the results of those discussions?
Great question. Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We made a commitment to Canadians to help them realize their goal of a strong, secure and stable retirement. And every 3 years, the finance ministers review the Canada Pension Plan to ensure that we are continuing to respond to the needs of Canadians and henceforth to build on the historic agreement signed in 2016 to enhance the CPP. At their most recent meeting, finance ministers agreed to strengthen the CPP to provide greater benefits to parents whose income drops after the birth or adoption of a first child, to persons with disabilities, to spouses who are widowed at a young age, or to the estates of lower-income contributors. We're happy to move with these changes, and I want to thank the member for Pickering-Uxbridge for her hard work in the Finance Committee. Thank you.
Honourable member for Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, we learned last week that the government is rushing to build 520 housing units for illegal border crossers. These will be heated, ventilated. They're going to have easy access to showers, drinking water, and toilets. Canadian Northerners are desperate for this kind of housing. So they have been postponed until post-2022. Many are calling my offices and they have a simple question. Why are they responding with such urgency to illegal border crossers and ignoring the plight of the North?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker,
the facility that is being constructed at Lacole is to ensure the proper handling of people who need that kind of protection according to Canadian law. But, Mr. Speaker, the needs of Canadians are extremely important to this government, wherever they may be across the country, including in Northern Canada. And our job as members of Parliament is to make sure that every Canadian's share in the wealth and the prosperity of this country, including those in the North.
The Honourable Member for Montcalm. Mr. Speaker, after a year, the government is improvising and then improvising some more with the crisis at the border. There's a backlog of 53,000 files. That means 2.5 years to process all that without any new applications. The government's solution? They've decided to travel to Nigeria and warn them that 90% of applicants are going to be turned down. That's their new magical solution to solve the crisis? The Honourable Minister of Transportation. That is one of the initiatives that we have undertaken due to the fact that the greatest percentage of asylum seekers is coming from Nigeria. I need to remind my colleague that in the 2018 budget, we have set aside $174 million, and $74 million of it was set aside to bolster the Immigration and Refugee Commission in order to be able to process asylum requests more quickly. We acted. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, January 28, 2017, the Prime Minister tweeted, "To those fleeing persecution, terror, and war, Canadians will welcome you." Since then, Quebec has had its hands full. Does the Prime Minister at least plan to update his tweet to specify To those fleeing persecution, terror, and war, know that 90% of you will have your claim of asylum turned down. The Honourable Minister of Transportation. Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, here in Canada, we welcome refugees who are fleeing persecution, who are afraid for their lives if they were to be returned to their home country. We are the second largest country in the world. We have values here which require that we welcome those fleeing persecution. At the same time, we're upholding the rules, and those who don't respect the rules are going to be returned to their home country. We're very clear on that.
Je voudrais signaler aux députés la présence à la tribune.
I would like to point out the presence in the gallery of His Excellency Mohamed Ojar, Minister of Justice of the Kingdom of Morocco.
I would also like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the European Parliament's delegation responsible for relations with Canada, led by Mr. Bernd Kulmel. The honourable member for Edmonton West is rising on a point of order.
Permission to table two documents. The first is the Parliamentary Budget Officer's Economic and Fiscal Outlook from April 2018, as well as the OECD Interim Economic Report Outlook, which will show, contrary to the Minister of Environment's claim that we have the fastest growing environment, that we're not even the second or third. In fact, this year Canada is the fourth fastest growing environment in the G7. Thank you.
Does the honourable member have unanimous consent of the House? No, there is no unanimous consent. The honourable government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the standing order, I have the honour to table in both official languages a certificate of nomination with the biographical notes for the proposed appointment of Stéphane Perrault as the Chief Electoral Officer.
The nomination and biographical notes be referred to the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hey.
Standing in name of Mr. Poirier regarding carbon tax.
I would ask, members are engaged in conversations that are often important at this moment, but I would encourage them to take those conversations out into the lobby.